Welcome to today's special City Council meeting. Today is Monday, June 2nd, 2025. I now call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
District 1, Councilmember Casey.
Present.
District 2, Councilmember Vieira, absent. District 3, Councilmember Otero.
Present.
District 4, Vice Mayor Martinez. Mayor Lopez.
Here. We will begin with citizens' communications. While the City Council welcomes and encourages participation in City Council meetings, adopted rules allow no more than 5 minutes. Resolution 2007-106. Members of the public interested in addressing the City Council during the special meeting may address the items which have been described in the notice of the special meeting in accordance with Government Code Section 549543. Anyone wishing to address the City Council must adhere to the rules of decorum. The rules of decorum are posted outside the chamber's doors. Is there anybody in the chambers who would like to make a comment?
Uniquely serious. It's nice that they had this tonight, even though it's 5:30. People will complain about, well, good complaints about they can't hear because of their work or whatever. But the thing that we need to address, probably the first thing that you even talk about, is how do we even get here? And there's been 4 years have passed. Every council say they're going to fix this and fix that. But how did we get here? These were supposed to be corrected. I know from living here a long time, the councils, they all say certain things, and everybody, the next group of people in the council say they're going to fix everything. Again, how did we get here? I hope there's an explanation somehow, because that should be the most important thing looked at first, and then we talk about all the problems and, hey, how we're going to fix them, right? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else? Seeing none. Are there any emails?
We did receive 2 emails. The first one is from David Yonan. Regarding our awesome code enforcement team, I'd like to see their budgeted dollars increased as much as you have flexibility to do so. This team is our best bang of the buck when it comes to addressing the massive homeless issues our city is facing. They do an awesome job, and their cost as a line item budgeted expense is very reasonable for the service they provide. Giving them additional resources such as added personnel would be a big plus for the city. If there are other areas in the budget where the homeless situation will be addressed, I would strongly encourage you to do so. Once again, this helps early on address crime, drugs, and other issues before they ruin our city. Apologize for not being there in person to add additional color to this badly needed resource, but once again, all you can do to help and aid the code enforcement team would be greatly appreciated. David J. Yonan. The second email is from Cynthia Prieto Diaz. Dear City Council staff and fellow members of the public, my name is Cynthia Prieto Diaz, a Stanislaus County resident, public health analyst, and civic scientist. As I cannot attend tonight's budget workshop, I am submitting this comment regarding the efficient use of the public works budget, specifically concerning toxic litter in local parks. My recent outreach starting in late March to Ceres Parks and Recreation and Director of Public Works, Sam Royal, unfortunately did not secure a commitment for proactive collaboration on solutions like dedicated receptacles or support for community cleanups to remove tobacco product waste. This past weekend for World No Tobacco Day, along with 2 others, I personally collected over 300 cigarette butts and wrappers from around Smyrna Park. This highlights that even with current maintenance schedules, relying on reactive cleanups by civic-minded individuals is not the most efficient use of resources. I believe public works budgets could be far better utilized through proactive measures. Strategic installation of tobacco product waste receptacles as part of my initial proposal would significantly reduce the burden on dedicated teams, allowing them to focus on other critical city needs. I am committed to partnering on sustainable, proactive strategies for cleaner parks. A photo from our recent cleanup is enclosed for your reference. I also welcome anyone to attend an upcoming Tobacco 101 workshop on June 5th to better understand the environmental harms of commercial tobacco in the community presented by TOPS, Tobacco Prevention Stanislaus Coalition. A flyer is enclosed along with the RSVP link. Thank you in advance for your time and consideration. Cynthia Prieto Diaz.
Thank you, Fallon. Was there anybody on Zoom?
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, thank you very much. Citizens Communications is now closed. Moving on to new business. This is the budget workshop, and we will begin with the Finance Director, Shannon. She will give a PowerPoint presentation, followed by our City Manager, Doug Dunford. And please hold all the questions until the end for the City Council. Then after that, we will have public comments. Go ahead.
Right. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Shannon Essenwein, Finance Director for the City of Ceres, and I appreciate the opportunity to present the fiscal year 26 proposed budget tonight. After my portion of the presentation, City Manager Doug Dunford will provide a detailed overview of each department's operations. At the end of the City Manager's presentation, we'll open the floor to questions, comments, and feedback from the Council and community. We strongly encourage residents and community members to engage in tonight's discussion as we work our way towards budget adoption on June 23rd. This year's budget document comes in at 136 pages, but don't worry, we'll do our best to break it down clearly and walk you through the key highlights. Tonight's presentation will focus primarily on the general fund, which supports essential public services such as public safety, parks and recreation, street repair and maintenance, and general government operations. To begin, let's take a moment to look at our budget development timeline and process. The Finance Department kicked off this year's budget process several months ago, issuing budget instructions to all departments. Department staff then submitted their proposals, which were carefully reviewed through a series of meetings with the City Manager, Doug Dunford, finance staff, and each department head. This was a collaborative but difficult process, as departments were asked to reassess priorities and make reductions where possible. We thank them for their diligent efforts and their commitment to financial responsibility. Our capital improvement plan, a major component of this year's investments, will go before the Planning Commission on June 16th, and the full budget will be presented for adoption on June 23rd. It's important to remember that the city budget is a spending plan, but more than that, it's a statement of priorities. This year's proposed budget continues to maintain essential service levels despite economic headwinds. As we look to fiscal year 26, our revenue outlook is modest. We're seeing relatively flat overall revenue, with only slight projected increases in sales tax, property tax, business license tax, and transient occupancy tax, or TOT. However, over the past year, we have been positioning ourselves for long-term financial sustainability by improving our cost recovery and fee structures. A new user fee schedule was adopted by the City Council in November of 2024 to ensure our fees are more in line with the costs to provide services. Additionally, we are nearing completion of an updated public facility fee study, and we are actively working on a water and sewer rate study to ensure those utilities can continue to meet infrastructure and regulatory needs. In addition, we are in the last year of our 5-year services contract with the City of Modesto and our school resource officer contract with the Ceres Unified School District. But we must balance those opportunities with significant financial headwinds. The fiscal year 25 budget was only balanced through the use of one-time funding, specifically fund balance reserves and remaining ARPA funds. That strategy is not sustainable moving forward. We are also facing broader macroeconomic uncertainties, including slowing revenue growth and slowing home sales. In calendar year 24, home prices remained high, but the number of homes sold in Ceres decreased by almost 17%. On the cost side, we anticipate increase in pension contributions, particularly for StanSara for safety personnel, which directly impacts our police budget and is mainly paid for with general fund dollars. Additionally, insurance premiums continue to rise due to escalating claims and litigation costs, which are particularly unpredictable and difficult to control. As a service organization, people are our greatest asset. Delivering high-quality service relies on having the right staff, the right training, and the right tools to do the job. This budget reflects that philosophy by supporting our employees with placeholder MOU adjustments, recognizing that recruitment and retention remains essential. The proposed fiscal year 26 budget includes placeholder increases to attract and retain qualified personnel. We've applied CPI-based adjustments for materials, contracts, and known cost escalations. And because we prioritize building in these known increases, some department requests had to be deferred or scaled back. We also included the first year of the 5-year capital improvement plan, and we've reallocated costs through changes in internal service funds. There are no new full-time positions being proposed this year. The budget does reflect staffing changes approved by the City Council last July, with the addition of a senior civil engineer and the elimination of 2 lower-level engineering roles. We've also made a few technical improvements to increase transparency. Software subscriptions, which were previously lumped under contract services, now have a dedicated budget line for better tracking and to ensure proper financial reporting. Costs associated with non-sworn police department activities have been properly allocated to Department 9 rather than Department 10, which is typically reserved for sworn services. These changes improve accountability and internal reporting. One of the most significant accounting improvements this year involves our Community Facilities Districts, or CFDs. We've created 2 separate funds. They were previously held in one fund. And so now CFD 2 is in Fund 269 and CFD 1 will remain in Fund 270. Why is this important, you might ask? Previously, CFD tax revenues were routed through the general fund before being used for the CFD-related services, which include police, fire, parks, and administration. That created a transparency issue and increased legal risk under the Mello-Roos Act. By maintaining separate funds, we now are fully compliant with state law. We ensure every dollar is spent only within the CFD that generated it, and we create a clean audit trail protecting both the city and the general fund from legal exposure. This is a best practice in municipal finance, and it's now reflected in our budget structure. Unfortunately, fleet replacement is unfunded for fiscal year 26. That means we'll need to operate older vehicles longer, which could drive up maintenance costs. We've also made targeted staffing adjustments. The senior planner role is funded at 75%, with the remaining 25% temporarily allocated to contract services while we recruit for that position. One school resource officer position is being shifted back to the general police officer role, putting another officer on patrol. These changes help balance operational needs with fiscal constraints. 7 previously unfunded positions remain unfunded due to ongoing budget constraints. These include 2 police officers, 3 dispatchers, the Deputy Public Works Director, and the Finance Secretary. In addition, 7 more positions are proposed to move to unfunded status. These include higher level roles such as the police captain and sergeant and the Community Development Director, positions that may eventually be critical to the city's operation, but are not currently financially viable. We are also deferring the hiring of a custodian, maintenance worker, and fleet mechanic staff, which limits our ability to proactively manage equipment and infrastructure. Now let's take a citywide view of the fiscal year 26 proposed budget. The total citywide revenues are projected at $87.2 million, while expenditures come in at $96.1 million. At first glance, this might appear to be a $9 million deficit, but I want to emphasize that this is not a structural shortfall. The majority of this difference comes from planned capital improvement expenditures funded by existing balances in enterprise and special revenue funds like water, sewer, and transportation. These are one-time investments in infrastructure and not recurring costs, and they're funded through revenues collected in prior years. There are some individual funds that remain in deficit, such as the Community Center Fund, but we've held the line this year without worsening those gaps. Only the general fund is structurally out of balance, which we'll explore next. Within the general fund, revenues are projected at $27.5 million, while expenditures total $29.5 million, resulting in a $2 million deficit. Personnel costs make up the largest portion at $15.9 million, with operations and maintenance costs totaling $13.6 million. To balance this, we're drawing down our fund balance. The fund balance functions as a rainy day fund, intended for emergencies or urgent needs, not to cover ongoing shortfalls. While using fund balance is not ideal, this allows us to preserve service levels and staff continuity in the short term. Our goal is to avoid long-term structural deficits, and this drawdown is a temporary measure while we continue pursuing longer-term solutions. Let's talk about the general fund balance. We are projected to close fiscal year 24 with an unaudited balance of $6.5 million. Fiscal year 25 is projected to close with a small surplus, bringing us to $6.8 million by the start of fiscal year 26. After applying the projected $2 million deficit, we expect to end fiscal year 26 with $4.8 million in fund balance. This equates to 16.3% of expenditures. This amount is lower than the previously adopted general fund reserve rate of 18%. This is also just shy of the 17% targeted recommended general fund reserve issued by the Government Finance Officers Association, or the GFOA. In addition to internal operations, the general fund supports several community programs and facilities. We're proposing $592 be transferred to support community center operations, landscape and lighting districts, Clinton Whitmore Mansion and Whitmore House, and concerts in the park. Also included is $304,000 repayment to the sewer fund for a past fire engine loan. These transfers reflect our ongoing investment in amenities and programming that contributes to the quality of life in Ceres. Let's now take a closer look at the citywide revenues by fund type. For fiscal year 26, total citywide revenues are projected at approximately $87.2 million. These revenues are categorized across several fund types, each with specific purposes and legal restrictions. Here's how those revenues break down. The general fund is our most flexible source of funding and is projected to generate $27.5 million, or about 31.6% of total citywide revenues. This fund supports core services like police, fire, parks, recreation, and administration. Proprietary funds include utilities such as water and sewer. Revenues for this fund type are projected to total $30.5 million, making up about 35% of citywide revenues. These funds are self-supporting, meaning the revenue collected from ratepayers directly fund the operations, maintenance, and infrastructure of those systems. Special revenue funds include revenues from grants, development impact fees, gas tax, Measure H, and other sources restricted for specific uses. They contribute approximately $16.7 million, or about 19.2% of total revenues. These funds are typically used for transportation projects, housing programs, and other designated services. Internal service funds are used for services provided internally among the city departments, like fleet maintenance, facilities, and IT. ISF revenues totaled $7.4 million, accounting for 8.5% of citywide revenue. Successor agency and other trust funds, generally the former redevelopment funds, and other fiduciary type accounts combined to make up a total of $5 million, or approximately 5.8% of total revenue. Each fund type plays a critical role in delivering services and maintaining compliance with legal and financial policies. Now let's turn our attention to citywide expenditures, which are projected to total just over $96 million in fiscal year 26. This figure represents the full cost of delivering services across all city departments and fund types, including operations, staffing, maintenance, capital projects, and debt obligations. We categorize these expenditures into several components. Personnel costs, making up $29.6 million, or approximately 31%, include salaries, benefits, and pension contributions for city employees. This is our largest and most essential ongoing cost, as we are fundamentally a service organization. From public safety and utilities to recreation and city administration, it's our employees who deliver the services residents rely on every day. These costs also include placeholder increases to support recruitment and retention, and we've factored in a 5% vacancy rate to recognize savings from natural turnover. Operations and maintenance make up $44.1 million, or approximately 46%. And this category includes all of our day-to-day operating costs, which include contract services, utilities, supplies and materials, insurance, and legal services. It also reflects inflation-driven increases and higher costs in areas such as park maintenance, animal services, and liability insurance. This is the area we try to find efficiencies wherever possible, but rising market costs continue to pose challenges across all departments. Capital outlay, capital improvement, and debt represent $22.4 million, or approximately 23%. This year includes a significant one-time investment through our capital improvement plan, such as infrastructure repairs, replacements, and upgrades, and transportation improvements. These are not funded by the general fund, but by revenues collected and carried forward in enterprise and special revenue funds. In addition to capital projects, this category includes debt service obligations for prior capital improvements. To summarize, about 31% of our spending is on our people, 46% on keeping operations running efficiently, and 23% on long-term capital investments and debt. This breakdown reinforces that while we continue to make strategic investments in the city's infrastructure, we are also carefully managing our personnel and operational costs to ensure long-term financial sustainability. The next 4 slides break down the citywide budget down by department category. Starting with public safety, the total citywide budget is $27.9 million, which is comprised of police, sworn, and police non-sworn, animal control, code enforcement, and fire. Moving on to public works and engineering, the total citywide budget is $51.5 million, which is mainly comprised of capital improvement projects and debt service of $22.2 million, but also includes the enterprise departments of water and wastewater, along with parks, facilities, and public works. The next 2 slides represent the citywide budget for the administration departments and make up $16.7 million. This is where you'll find support departments such as IT, city manager, HR, city council, finance, city clerk, and others. This is also where you'll find general government services such as recreation, downtown revitalization, general city planning, and housing rehabilitation. The next 4 slides provide a closer look at the general fund revenue. For fiscal year 2026, we are anticipating receiving $27.5 million in revenue. The revenue is mainly attributed to taxes, making up $22.3 million, or 81% of the general fund revenue. Taxes are used for general city purposes and are deposited in the general fund and are not restricted. Taxes are mainly made up of sales, property, utility user, motor vehicle in lieu, which is another form of property tax, and business license. Other revenue sources in the general fund include license permits and franchises of $1.6 million, revenue from use of money and property of $290,000, fines, forfeitures, and penalties of $225,000, intergovernmental revenues of $1.5 million, and charges for services and other revenue of $1.6 million. Before diving into the expenditure side of the general fund, I want to briefly touch on a few updates regarding general fund revenue as they directly influence how we shape our spending plan. We are anticipating secured property tax revenue of $3.1 million, or 11% of total general fund revenue. Secured property taxes have seen a small but steady increase over the last 4 years. As mentioned earlier, home prices remain high, but home sales have declined, resulting in small incremental increases year over year. Motor vehicle in lieu is another form of property tax revenue, which has seen larger increases over the 4 years. For the fiscal year 26 budget, we're anticipating receiving $5.2 million, which is an increase of approximately $150,000. Our sales tax consultant, Avenue Insight and Analytics, is projecting a modest increase in sales tax revenue for fiscal year 26. This is encouraging, especially given the broader economic uncertainty many cities are experiencing. However, it's important to note that these revenue projections are reviewed and adjusted quarterly based on actual sales tax receipt and current economic trends. As we've seen over the past few years, consumer behaviors, inflation, and regional market shifts can all have a significant impact on what actually comes in. So while the outlook is positive, we remain cautious and flexible. On the TOT side, we're projecting an increase for fiscal year 26. This is largely due to the opening of a new hotel here in Ceres. That's great news in terms of economic activity and tourism-related revenue. With that said, there's some unpredictability with how this will play out. The hotel is being marketed as an extended stay hotel, and under state law, TOT is not collected on stays longer than 30 days. That means actual revenues could fluctuate depending on guest behavior and booking trends. While we are anticipating growth in both sales tax and TOT, we are approaching these projections with measured optimism and will continue to monitor them closely throughout the fiscal year. To round out our discussion on the general fund revenue, I want to provide a quick overview of the utility user tax, or UUT. This revenue stream has remained fairly flat, but one key area where we've seen a noticeable decline is in the cable TV portion of this tax. As more households continue to cut the cord and shift to streaming services, we're seeing ongoing erosion in cable-related UUT revenue. This is a broader national trend that reflects changing consumer habits. Because streaming platforms are not subject to the same UUT regulations, we don't capture revenue from those services in the same way we do from traditional cable subscriptions. Other general fund tax revenue saw an increase in fiscal year 23 due to an accounting change, but revenue for fiscal year 26 is holding steady with a modest increase. Now turning to the expenditure side of the general fund, which totals just under $29.5 million. These figures show that the general fund is heavily service-driven, with most dollars going to personnel services. Personnel services total $15.9 million, or 54% of the budget. This does not include fire personnel, since the city contracts with the city of Modesto for fire services. Operation and maintenance total $10.6 million, or 36% of the budget, and includes $6 million of the fire services contract. ISF allocations total $2.4 million, or 8% of the budget, and represent fleet, IT, and building maintenance costs. Transfers total $592,000, or 2%, and mainly represent a repayment of a $304,000 fire engine loan to the sewer fund and $288,000 to support several community programs and facilities. The general fund expenditures can be further broken down into 3 department types. Public safety represents the largest portion of the pie at 75% or $22.2 million, followed by engineering at 16% or $4.8 million. Oh, shoot. Hold on. No, wait. Let me check. Hold on. Sorry about that. Oh, thank you. Sorry about that. Followed by administration at 16% or 4.8 million, and public works and engineering at 8% or 2.4 million. Public safety is composed of 5 departments: police non-sworn, police sworn, animal control, code enforcement, and fire. Together, they account for over 75% of general fund expenditures, reflecting our priority on keeping the community safe. Public works and engineering is broken down into 5 departments: engineering services, streets, solid waste, water conservation, and parks. These departments are responsible for maintaining the city's infrastructure and public spaces. Administration covers departments such as recreation, finance, HR, city manager, and city clerk. These teams keep our internal operations running smoothly and support the delivery of services citywide. Again, every department plays a role in delivering responsive, transparent, and effective government services. This slide summarizes the key financial constraints we faced in developing the fiscal year 26 budget. ARPA funding, which provided $1.5 million in relief last year, is no longer available. We're no longer partially funding ISF departments like IT and facilities from one-time sources. Fleet and equipment replacement are unfunded, which will strain operations over time. A total of 14 positions are unfunded, many of them in public safety and operations. Insurance costs have increased by nearly $400,000, and legal services are up by $175,000. Contract costs for parks, right-of-way maintenance, and animal services have also escalated. Inflationary increases are impacting the cost of materials and supplies. And finally, pension rate increases continue to place pressure on personnel budgets. Despite the increase in cost, placeholder MOU adjustments to attract and retain qualified personnel is included in the fiscal year 26 proposed budget. So let's recap the fiscal year 26 budget. The general fund revenue remains relatively flat. Core services are being maintained. We are carrying a $2 million deficit, and we are maintaining a fund balance of 16.3%, which falls right below the GFOA minimum recommendation. Tonight's workshop is the opportunity for the public and the City Council to provide input on the budget. From here, we'll take comments and direction and make the final adjustments to the proposed document. Final budget adoption is scheduled for June 23rd. Next, the City Manager will present an overview of the department-specific budget. Following his presentation, we welcome your engagement, questions, and feedback.
Mr. Mayor and council members, first of all, I'd like to point out what a dedicated leadership team the city has. I'd like to thank each one of them for stepping up and making some tough decisions and choices for this current budget, as well as the proposed budget. It was not easy or fun having to do a self-reflection on what the city really needed to keep moving forward and meet budget demands. I'd also like to acknowledge 3 individuals that have worked tirelessly and had many sleepless nights of putting this budget together. They're Finance Director Shannon Essenwein, Deputy Finance Director Sonia Ledesma, and Accountant Lauren Robbins. They did all the hard work and did all the pushing for this budget. We're here tonight to walk through the proposed 25-26 budget and hear from the community about what matters most. As you recall, last year, We relied on one-time federal relief funds and the city's reserve to create a balanced budget. Federal relief funds are not available this year. The overall preliminary budget is balanced with the help of reserves. However, it also reflects long-term fiscal challenges. Our priority is making responsible, sustainable decisions that protect vital services over time. Over the next year, service levels are expected to be reduced with limited flexibility to expand or introduce new services or programs. While ongoing revenues are not sufficient to cover baseline expectations or expenditures, they are definitely not sufficient to address deferred maintenance, fund service level increases, or expand programs. In the future, enhancements will require trade-offs or the identification of a new sustainable revenue source. Tonight is about working together to shape the path forward. Despite a roughly balanced budget, the city is closely monitoring several economic headwinds. The state of California is projecting multi-year deficits of $45 billion or more, which could result in reductions to local funding or the imposition of new program mandates or unfunded mandates. At the federal level, shifts in grant structures and national priorities introduce additional unpredictability. Locally, key revenues such as sales tax and transit occupant tax are closely tied to consumer behavior and are particularly vulnerable during economic downturn. In addition, rising labor and benefit costs continue the pressure for long-term sustainability of core services. These challenges underscore the importance of maintaining healthy reserves and aligning future commitments with conservative and realistic revenue projections. The broader financial challenges about raising costs, fewer one-time funds, and sustaining citywide services. As Shannon was saying, there are no new personnel are proposed at this time. The city will maintain its current authorized staffing level of 181 full-time people. However, 14 of these positions are unfunded. The preliminary budget for fiscal year 25-26 currently projects net operating revenues of $27.5 million. The expenditures coming in, as Shannon said, is 29.4, creating a structural deficit of $1.9 million in the budget. One-time expenditures are recommended to be supported from our reserve account. Ceres' current fiscal conundrum did not occur overnight. This has been years in the making, and we can track it back as far as 2015. Transparency and honesty are what the city strives for. Without new tools, the city must evaluate what it can sustain. This budget is about planning responsibly, prioritizing residents' needs, and maintaining quality of life. To account for economic uncertainty and potential revenue volatility, staff continues to apply conservative forecasting assumptions using historic trends, current market data, and guidance from external revenue consultants. Revenue assumptions will continue to be monitored and updated as new information becomes available. The following summarizes the city's general fund expenditures, and these estimates may be further refined in the final recommended budget that will be presented to the council later on June 23rd. Competing demands for one-time expenditures, particularly related to Stanislaus Animal Services Agency, Stan Sierra Health Insurance, as well as workman compensation, result in a significant overall reduction to the projected reserve fund balance. Our number one priority is protecting the quality of life that Ceres families expect and deserve. But with fewer dollars, the city may need to make cuts to essential services. As noted above, these numbers are preliminary. Changes will continue to be made after the workshop, including incorporation of city council input and a final review of revenue and expenditures estimates before the recommended budget is released on June 23rd for consideration and adoption. Keep in mind that when the staff discusses an increase or in a small comparison for what department, this is due to the uncontrolled cost of health insurance, retirement, and workers' compensation costs. Personnel costs account for the salaries and benefits of the city employees, including full-time, part-time, and city council. Based on current assumptions, a personnel budget is estimated at roughly $15 million or 54% of the total budget. This is an increase of $74,000 over last year. The primary drivers contributing to this increase Truing up the salary and benefits as vacant positions are filled, full-time implementation of personnel changes, the unfreezing of 3 full-time officers earlier, citywide cost of living adjustments and assumptions for new and vacant positions using salary step 3 and Stan, Sierra, and Pepper rates. Overall, the city is facing a very challenging path forward. If nothing changes to overcome this shortfall of funds, the city needs to see a significant increase in new housing or commercial development or some other major change to help address the rising cost of doing business in California. In only 1 year or 2, there will be significant undesirable reductions in services provided by the city to residents if nothing happens. Going by departments right now, as Shannon had already previously discussed, Department 9 is police non-sworn. This fund consists of the records division, dispatch, property and evidence, and abandoned vehicle abatement. Currently, there are 3 unfunded dispatcher positions. However, staff has 1 reserve dispatcher in backgrounds. We're looking at a decrease in approximately $100,000. In Department 10, the police department. The police department has been facing personnel shortage for quite some time. Overall, the department is facing 1 unfunded captain position, 1 unfunded sergeant, 3 unfunded police officer positions, while 2 others are in backgrounds, 1 currently in the academy and 4 waiting for the next academy to start. So let me clarify real quick. You might have caught that there is a unfunded captain position that is actually going to be taking place and changes on the 23rd of June when Trenton Johnson will be promoted to chief of police, and that contract will be coming to at that time. The police department is facing significant challenges as well. Handheld radios and computers in their vehicles are wearing out and have far exceeded their warranty. They have not been replaced incrementally over the years as a common practice among most agencies. They have an aging fleet of patrol cars as well. Staff is looking at a decrease of roughly $150,000 for fiscal year 25-26. And as of April 2025, I just want to go over some of the stats in the first 4 months of this year that the police department has had. They've handled 5,703 911 calls, 13,000 non-emergency calls, 3,300 traffic stops, 2,200 citations, which means you have a 66% chance of receiving a ticket, and 704 arrests in the first 4 months of 2025-26 fiscal year. Department 11 is animal control. This is one of those uncontrolled costs. Staff is looking at an additional anticipated increase of about $200,000. SASSA just hired a new executive director, and staff believes she'll be making some positive changes. And so there'll be hopefully some reduction in that. Department 13 is code enforcement. A code enforcement secretary was just hired, and currently we have assigned 3 code enforcement officers. However, 1 code enforcement officer is funded through ARPA funding, and that funding set to run out on December 31st, 2026, or whenever the funds are depleted. Code enforcement shows a decrease of approximately $150,000 for this coming year. Department 15 is fire and currently under contract negotiations. Staff is looking at an increase of approximately $171,000 for fiscal year 25-26. And keep in mind, 25-26 is the last year of the current contract. Staff is looking at all avenues for reductions in costs and anticipates a presentation to the council in September about all options that are open to the City of Ceres for fire services. Department 16 is information technology. IT is fully staffed and is currently working on an inventory of all city equipment to develop a rotational replacement process to the city. This way, the city will not incur a huge expense to replace all the equipment at once if IT will actually experience the changeover of trying to replace 10 to 15 computers a year. IT will experience a decrease of roughly $24,000 in this coming year. Department 18 is Public Works. Public Works currently has a vacancy for the Deputy Public Works position that is unfunded. Public Works is the main point of contact for streets, parks, recreation, fleet, water, sewer, solid waste, and water conservation. Staff is expecting an increase to their budget in the amount of about $90,000. This is due to overall increase related to benefits and contract increases. Department 19, Engineering. This department is fully staffed with revenues from Measure L, SB1, various grants, encroachment permits, and development services. Currently, its staff now includes 3 engineers, which allow the department to design most, if not all, projects in-house. The department will be applying for an additional $25 million of funding to help supplement the cost of the department. Department 20 is fleet. Since the retirement of our fleet services supervisor, we have an unfunded vacancy for a senior fleet mechanic. In addition, at a cost savings, staff has placed a hold on the purchase of new vehicles this year to help reduce costs. As a result, staff is looking at a decrease of just over $1 million in the fleet budget. Keep in mind, we have three brand new police cars sitting over in the yard. Department 25 is wastewater. This division currently fully allocated. They are addressing issues of making the city sustainable by looking at all options to help control the cost of working with Turlock and Modesto. These are the enterprise funds, and the department is looking at an increase in funding for the budget of roughly $1.5 million, and this is partially due to the increase in the rates being charged by Modesto and Turlock to the city of Ceres. Department 30 is streets. The streets division is fully staffed and anticipates an increase of about $90,000. This is due to liability insurance, salaries, and workers' compensation increases. Department 30 is solid waste. The solid waste division works with Bertolotti Disposal and removing leaf and limbs as well as disposal services for all residents and businesses within the city. With the closing of Covanta, the county and city of Modesto have been working to establish a landfill that all cities in Stanislaus County will be able to use. This is an unknown amount, but is expected to possibly be a slight decrease in cost. Overall, the budget will see a decrease of about $2,000 this time, but there will be an agreement between the county and Modesto and us coming up here shortly. Department 35 Water. The Water Division is partially staffed. They work in conjunction with Stanislaus Regional Water Authority, also known as SRWA, and oversee 14 wells for the city. This division is planning on moving into their new headquarters later this year on Rockefeller Drive. This division is also an enterprise fund and expects an increase of $90,000 this coming year. This is due to the increased cost of materials that are being charged to the department. Department 36 is water conservation. This division is fully staffed and works with the city to help meet state requirements for recycling and control water usage. This department is anticipating an increase of $62,000. This is primarily due to insurance, contract services, and promotional items. Department 40 is parks. The Parks Division is fully staffed. They oversee 16 parks, 11,000 trees, and 123 right-of-way locations. To help save costs, the Parks Division will be used to paint over graffiti in the parks, and this division is anticipated to decrease in approximately $230,000 by cutting the graffiti abatement. Department 41 is facilities. This division has 2 unfunded positions. The positions are 1 custodian and 1 facilities maintenance worker. And this division anticipates an increase of approximately $55,000 this year, and this is primarily due to the cost in materials and supplies that are continually going up. Department 45 is downtown revitalization. This department receives funding through the Downtown Association. Last year, council stopped collecting for this association. This has moved the responsibility for the funding to the general fund, and staff is in the process of bringing this item back to council with improvements and an agreement to start the billing of the process for downtown revitalization. This budget is increasing by roughly $3,000 due to contract costs. Department 55 is recreation. The recreation division is fully funded. The department is limited the amount of programs based on the budget. The staff is always looking at ways to improve and have partnered with Stanislaus County for a couple of programs for seniors. This division is looking at an increase of approximately $260,000, and this coming year. This is due to the moving of overall cost of recreation to a single department instead of spreading the cost over all the departments. Department 57 and 58 is the CRA successor agency, which Shannon already covered about for redevelopment. That's pretty much for investment, and we're paying off. Department 60 is general city. Staff is anticipating a decrease in the overall general city budget due to cost reductions and looking at approximately $200,000 decrease in the cost for Stan's COG, League of Cities, and LAFCO. Department 60 is elected officials. Overall, the elected officials budget is anticipated to decrease by roughly $3,000. Department 65, city manager, staff sees an increase of roughly $2,000. This is due to part of the rising costs in workers' compensation and other related costs in insurance. Department 66, Human Resources. Since the HR analyst retired, HR has been running shorthanded with a part-time employee filling in. HR oversees all personnel management for the city departments and is looking at a slight increase of $50,000 in the upcoming year, which consists primarily of contract costs. Department 67, City Clerk. This division is responsible for all city records and all legislative actions, ensuring transparency to the public. Staff is looking at various options to have the city become more efficient with filing of documents and reporting. Staff is anticipating a $100,000 decrease in the budget. Department 70 is building. This division is fully staffed, looking at an increase in contract costs due to the county increasing their costs. Staff is looking at an increase of roughly $110,000. Finance, this department has several vacancies at this time. They have an unfunded secretary position, a vacant accountant position, and 2 account clerk openings. They have made offers to 2 people to fill those account clerk positions, and they hope to have them filled by June 15th. Staff believes this department will see an increase of roughly $200,000, which is largely in part of the contract services for auditing. Department 75 is planning. Currently, the division has 2 vacancies. One is the community development director, and the other is a senior planner. At this time, the community development director position is unfilled, and staff has hired a part-time principal planner to backfill while a recruitment is conducted for that position. Staff is looking at a decrease in the budget of roughly $425,000. Department 25 is capital improvement programs and debt service. Staff has added only a few water, sewer, and streets projects to the capital improvement program this year. Staff continues to fund road and sidewalk maintenance. The department has a large capital improvements such as Hatch Road transmission line, Crow's Landing Road reconstruction with a new sewer main line, and Whitmore Avenue reconstruction with a new storm drain line. These projects are funded by enterprise funds, Measure L, SB1, and grants. The department is looking at an increase in funding through grants and enterprise funding of $7 million. And Mr. Mayor and council members, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much. At this moment, we'll open it up to the public. So anyone in the chambers that wishes to speak on this item, now is the time. Welcome.
Penny Meyer, City of Ceres. I just want a clarification. I just have a question for Mr. Dunford. Downtown revitalization money, since we stopped paying into it, is that money being reallocated that was already in the account? Or does that stay separate?
No, that stays separate. And so we're using some of that money towards Mr. Beltran to do move towards street paving, but we've collected very little over there. So if you recall, there should be a project coming back very shortly for 3rd Street and 5th Street to be redone and look very similar to 4th Street. That seems to be the main thoroughfare, and the other 2 were kind of forgotten. And so that whatever money's left, we can only use it for the downtown revitalization. It doesn't get reallocated to any other department.
So the money that's already there is going to go towards the 3rd Street revitalization?
Yes.
Thank you.
Next person, please.
Jeannie Akeley, Sears. City manager. These categories you went through, I can ask a question on any item. Animal control. I don't know the nomenclature of Stanislaus, something they have to belong to get animal control services. And evidently there's not a lot of cities in that. And I've had questions before. I've been over and asked questions over there about how it works. I got a pretty good idea. But why are we continuing to pay such a high price for such a small city? And we should be able to cut that quite a bit. I mean, $800 and some odd thousand a year is just bizarre for animal control in Ceres. And I personally think that if there was a voucher type system, when there's a call or something like that, that they put in their computer in their vehicle and charge the city appropriately for the service. But a flat rate, whether they do enough service to cover all that expense, you could cut that probably in half or maybe a little less than half and give some of that to the police department and code enforcement. That would really help out, especially with this ARPA money running out. There's other programs in there that need to be cut too, without a doubt, but that's always been one that I question. Why do we keep paying when we don't get it? It doesn't justify the cost or the cost. So that was my question.
So the Stanislaus Animal Services Agency, SASA, is a joint powers authority, and we belong to it. Turlock and Oakdale are the only cities in the county that do not belong to it. Everybody else, it belongs to SASA. And they base our figures and numbers not only on the personnel that they have, but the number of dogs that are being brought in from the city of Ceres. And we're right in behind Modesto in the number of dogs that are being brought in. And we've had a couple of I guess, farms of animals being brought in where they have, 15, 20 dogs at a time.
Yeah.
That all goes against us, for being payment, and that's how they divide a lot of it up. For us to start our own animal services agency, it'd be far more expensive because we also have to have a building. We're gonna have to meet animal services, or not animal services, but and PETA responsibilities and make sure everything's copacetic with that. But we have to sit there. This is a cheaper version to do it. We are looking at other ways, and all the county cities that are involved in that have their costs going up. We're all questioning that as to why, and so that's just the anticipated cost. We haven't got the final number yet. We're having a meeting next week, I think.
Is the cost, though, appropriate for the size of the city compared to maybe other cities in California or the Central Valley?
Well, you really can't compare us with other cities of California because each one's demographically are completely different, but you can't compare us in here. So we're the second largest that belong to that agency. And so, like I said, we come in right below Modesto and bring a number of dogs into that. Modesto chooses to provide and pay for their own animal control personnel and trucks. And so they do get a break that way. We chose not to do that. And so we're taking on that cost ourselves along with all the other agencies that are part of this JPA.
So how often do they have meetings with the county to go over these costs?
We have monthly meetings that we are constantly talking about it, but we've been in budget discussions for the last
Long time.
3 months. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next person, please.
Shirley Rogers, City of Ceres. I have one question first. Why do we still own the Whitmore Mansion? Why?
That's a council decision. That's not mine. If the council wants to sell that or whatever, that would be up to them at another time, but not right now.
It's a white elephant. It's doing no good to the city. Now, the house that you call the Whitmore House, that's the Daniel Whitmore House, and that was turned into a museum and a nice house in honor of the man who founded this city. But the Clinton Whitmore House is just a white elephant. The money from there could be used to pay part of this off. We still owe on this building. We seem to go further in debt when we should be going the other way. Why is the city council still getting insurance? Is there any city council members who do not even collect their salary? We get bits and pieces of information. Someday I'd like to see something that has all the information. But again, back to the Whitmore House, the Clinton Whitmore House. It's a white elephant. Get rid of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next person, please.
Alvaro Franco, City of Ceres, the manager. You threw up some numbers regarding the public safety, and I was wondering, is that a huge increase from last year, or how do we stand this year so far in comparison?
You're talking about public safety, sir?
Yes, like the 911 calls or anytime that police have to go out there.
You're talking about the 4-month stats I gave you.
Well, I'm just saying, in the general fund expenditures, it's at 75%. And another thing that I see is that their pensions are going up. There's all these incentives to keep them in the force. But I'll use my own family as an example. I have a police officer who's the godfather of my daughter, and he doesn't work in Ceres. He works in Daly City. And, if he gets a chance, he'll go to Santa Clara. So I really don't think these incentives are working. The economy is contracting, and I think a lot of these positions, they're sought after positions, and they're going to get filled eventually. So I feel like getting rid of some of these incentives is, it's not going to do anything. Demand is not going to increase. So I think that's why I wanted to hear it. Like, has safety gone down in the city? Is that why we're, throwing cash at police officers so that, they come to the city? Because I feel pretty safe every time I go out. And our police force is adequate. I've never had an issue. I do have an issue with animal control. I've almost been mauled with walking my little girl by a pit bull. I've called the animal control in the past, and they're busy doing something else, like taking care of a horse somewhere off in some farm or something. So I feel like those allocations are a little bit unwarranted, and yeah, like Mr. Warren said, cutting that in half would be, we'd get the same results that we have now. I've had rabid cats in my house that are living there. Just like I try to call animal control and nothing happens. So to see such a huge budget for them is kind of, it doesn't make sense to me. And while I still have time, one thing I did see in the budget is like the only thing being cut is parks, and for me that's the one thing I wish that would go up. I think there's people in the newspaper that have written about like they want to see more trees, but we just seem to be cutting park expenditures and staff. So those were my comments. So thank you so much for your time. And also I wanted to say thank you to Mr. Jem Casey and Serena Otero for sending this out. They're the reason I'm here. So I really appreciate that you guys sent out this mailer to inform the community of this that's going on. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your input.
Thank you very much. Next person, please.
Just like, my name is Catherine Reeves. I would just like to know if, when you have these meetings, do you find or do anything about some of the calls that never gets taken care of? Over by my house off of Blaker, there was 2 pit bulls running around. No collar, no nothing. I called the pound service. 30 minutes later, I'm still following them down the street. They never bothered to show up. So I would like to know, why is it when you call in? I've had another friend that happened to her, except it wasn't a pit bull. And I would like to know why we don't get a call back saying, no, they're not going to show up. Because I sat there and waited for someone, and I never got a phone call, and I never got anybody to respond. And I personally think that's shit.
Thank you very much. Next person, please.
Good evening, council members. John Warren, resident of the city of Ceres. I have a couple questions. We have 14 unfunded positions going into this budget year. How does that relate, those dollars and cents, to the deficit of $2 million? Are those unfunded positions accounted for and we still have a $2 million deficit? We've saved wages and money and salary savings by not funding those positions. How does that relate to the $2 million deficit?
Actually, that's helped us by reducing that. So that means we're not paying costs out for general fund. As an example, the police captain position is being unfunded. That's a savings of $500,000.
I understand that. So if we did not have those unfunded positions, would our deficit be $4 million?
They could be. I'm not that fast calculating 14 positions.
How much money did we save with those 14 positions?
We don't have that information right offhand. I mean, because keep in mind, 6 of them were from last year. They're carry over to this year, and we did it last year. And so we looked at for tactically to make sure, we keep the services going, but saying some of those positions don't need to be filled. It doesn't affect the services of the city.
I believe from last year, some of those unfunded positions, the money was used to pay for the raises that were given to the employees on that one-time bargaining unit raise, if my recollection is correct. I mean, unfunded positions are used to bring down the cost. If we still have $2 million that we're in a deficit, we would be $4 or $5 or $6 million if we didn't have those unfunded positions.
Possibly.
With the community development person in that department, the chief of police, that's over $1 million right there. So what I'm kind of asking is, you have these unfunded positions to help balance the budget, and we still have a $2 million deficit. If we didn't do that, the city would have maybe a $6 million deficit. Am I not correct?
As I said before, I don't know the exact amount that we would be at, but we're in a lot better position because of that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next person, please.
Hello, hi. My name is Galan Guzman. This is my first time attending. So how many of you guys, your first time here?
Sir,
Oh, sorry.
you're addressing the council. You don't address those citizens.
Okay. I just want to give a shout out and thank you to Casey. Who is that? And Otero. All right, thank you. So they're the reason I'm here. Likewise. And so I was just looking at the numbers, and it's about 60% that's allocated to public safety, which is about it's quite a lot of money. Let's see. I have a question. From the budget from 2025 to 2026, the proposed budget, how much of that money is going to public safety? Did you say 200,000?
It's more than $200,000 going to public safety.
No, I know, but the different. Let's see, let me.
Could you please look at the presentation and give this gentleman the number? 1 second, please. It's in the presentation.
Doug, I actually think it was part of your presentation.
Yeah.
And you were comparing our proposed fiscal year 25 actual expenditures to our proposed fiscal year 26 budgeted expenditures. I believe that is the number he's referring to.
Yeah. Thank you.
Our current revenues coming in versus our expenditures going out? The
Yeah,
difference.
my question is expenditures.
Expenditures is a little 29.4, 29.5 million.
29.5 million?
Huh?
Okay,
Public-
but what about
Public safety.
So you're talking about public safety or is overall?
just the overall?
Okay. 29.5.
Oh, is there a way that we could get like a copy of what you were saying?
Doug, can I jump in here? So he's referring to Department 10 on page 32 of the budget document, where you compared total projected expenditures for Department 10 at 15.9 million versus 15.7 in the budgeted document.
Yeah, correct. Thank you.
So proposed budget, the actual expenditures are under what we budgeted for fiscal year 25. So we did budget more than that. We're just coming in under projections. So that's the difference between the two numbers that he was referring to.
Which is 200,000?
It's approximately 200,000.
Okay. And is there like my question is there a way that like we could get a copy of what you were the itemized budget instead of just a percentage?
It's on our website.
Oh, on your website? Okay. All right. Pull it up. I got 1 minute. Is there a way that we could get like a hyperlink or a QR code?
We don't have one handy right now. It's on our, just go to City of Ceres or ceres.gov.
Is there a reason why it wasn't up there? If it's on the city website?
It's on the city website for everybody to look at before they come here. This was a presentation and discussion between staff and council.
Sir, if you go to the city's website under Agenda Center and you go to today's date, with the agenda packet is the draft budget in its entirety.
Okay. Well, obviously I wasn't prepared today. I was busy doing other things, but my time's up, but thank you.
Thank you very much. We get the next person, please. Seeing none. Anybody on Zoom?
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
We already went through the emails, right? Okay, thank you very much, everyone. We'll now close public comment and bring this item back for the council for questions and discussion. And I do not have any buttons in front of me, so council members, feel free.
Well, first off, I just want to thank the community for being here tonight. I see a lot of new faces, so I appreciate you being present and hearing this presentation. Sonia and Shannon, thank you for all the work that you've been doing. Many probably don't know this, but they haven't been with the city that long. So they came into some things to clean up, and they've been helping us to get things in order, to look at the finances. We have a lot of new city staff. And Doug, thank you for that presentation as well. I just want to thank all of the city staff for all of your hard work and reviewing all your budget items and your staffing and working together to come to this conclusion of this budget proposal. I have the same question as Mr. Yeakley, how did we get here? And I've been on the phone many times with our city manager asking the same question and different questions. over time, I don't feel that we've been very proactive. I feel like we've been very reactive in our city. And what I'd like to see in the future is us, in order to move forward, we have proper goals in place, we get our strategic plan updated, and we continue to have the community involvement. Some of my questions have already been answered through Doug's presentation and through Shannon's presentation, but I do have a few other questions. For our city manager, there is the SDA $15,000. I was just curious what that entails.
Direct that to the finance department.
Serena, usually what we do is anytime that any of our officers is involved in anything that's related with the county, we turn around and charge that time back to the sheriff's department, and that's the revenue that comes back for any of those operations. I do believe that the officer who was assisting with that is no longer with the city, so I think that's why some of the revenue was decreased from previous year to the upcoming year. I don't know if we're going to foresee seeing additional support that we're going to be providing to the sheriff's department, but that is why we have that decrease for 26.
Thank you. So just a comment about the SDA explanation. It's probably because of a lack of funding that now we don't have an officer assigned to this special unit. That special unit is extremely important in our county. They assist on many large operations and keep our community safe. So that's one of the concerns when it comes to public safety when we have a lack of police officers. And then it looks like the JAG police grant is at 0, but that's just, we'll know what we get later on in the year.
Yes, the JAG grant, if we apply for that each year, we don't know how much we're going to get until they award it to us.
Thank you. My other concern was the downtown revitalization. You didn't explain that, so I thank you for that. When it comes time to discuss that again, will the businesses in the downtown district be included in that discussion?
Yes, the economic development manager has been going out, contacting them and educating them. And so hopefully we'll have a better turnout than we did at the first meeting.
Okay, thank you. And then currently, I know the city has a lot of contracts out there. I assume these are being reviewed right now for cost efficiency.
Yes, ma'am. We've actually looking at all the contracts now, and so continually renewing them and keep them going. We're looking at where we're getting the most bang for our buck and doing new RFPs to make sure that we're getting the right amount and the best deal.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you. So my other concern is I noticed and please correct me if I'm wrong, the overtime for sworn is less and the overtime for non-sworn is a little less. I don't know if we're setting ourselves up for failure. It seems like with the unfunded police positions and the unfunded dispatch positions, could we continue to incur overtime costs again?
I'm sure we're going to incur overtime costs. The police department, just being brutally honest, hasn't met their budget for overtime in the last several years. Reason being is on the dispatchers that we were running quite a bit of a shortage of them. I believe Interim Chief Johnson has put out that we just had 3 get off training. Was it 3? Just completed training, so that will help reduce the overtime costs. And then keep in mind the JAG grant also helps for paying for some of the overtime costs for SWAT training and K-9 training. So that's why their funding is a little bit lower.
On the, there's a line item that said investigative services. Is that for just like background checks or is that something else? Because I noticed that amount was different as well.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
The investigative services line, is that for the background checks or is that a different function of the police department?
So that's actually a different function of the police department. So background services, we're moving that all over to HR, human resources, and handling all the backgrounds, applications, everything. And that's why HR went up a little bit. their investigative services has to do with detectives and some of the other positions they have there with the police department.
Okay. I don't have the exact amount in front of me, but it looked like it was less. How might this impact the community with not having the same amount of funding as previous year?
So as Shannon pointed out, that we moved some of the funding around, and so we transferred the funding that they were using for backgrounds over to HR. And so it's not impacting the city at all. It's just moving the money where it's supposed to be within the department it has to be.
Okay, thank you. Checking my notes here. I had a lot of concerns when it comes to our police department, and unfortunately seeing the lack of positions again. There's a lot that comes in our police department to keep us safe in this community. And I'm disappointed to see that we're going to have more unfunded or continue to have unfunded positions. One of the things that I would like to suggest up here today in looking at the council budget is we currently have the professional development budget. There's the training budget, and then there's the budget to be able to attend those trainings through travel and everything. There are trainings that the city council should go to, which benefits the community. Things like the new city council conference, which helps educate us on certain, things that we need to know as city council members. However, for the remaining professional development, I know that it's, I think it's $6,000. I would like to propose that that funding get moved into the training budget for the police department. We're going to be having a lot of new officers on our streets, and there's nothing more important than making sure that they're trained to handle any kind of situation that they might run into. Another proposal I have that has been tough to, come to agreement with is the medical insurance that the council currently gets offered. That's also, what's the total number on the medical insurance for the council? The current cost?
$47,000.
So moving that funding around as well somewhere, and that 47,000, is that between all 5 of us, or just the amount that's currently being used with the council members that use the insurance?
The $47,000 represents the council members that are currently receiving medical benefits, and it's split between 3 funds: water, sewer, and general fund.
Okay. So my proposal again is taking the total funding that the council has offered for medical insurance and moving it into another allocated position, or a position that's unfunded. So you mentioned the code enforcement position is, currently going to go away in December because of the ARPA funding. But I'm sure there's some other options that our police chief may be able to provide. I just think it's really important that we, as a council, also get some funding moved around to help the cause.
Council member?
Yeah.
So you're saying move all the money or the 77,000 over into an unfunded position. The problem is that is 2/3 of that 77,000 is water and sewer, which are enterprise funds, which only can be used for the people that are being supporting water and sewer. And so I don't think code enforcement would qualify for that. So we'd have to take 2/3 of that. And am I correct, Shannon? 2/3 or 1/3 of 77?
No, it's not split 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. Yeah.
Is it our 60-20-20?
It's 60-20-20. 60 general fund, 20 sewer, and 20 water.
So we could take 60% of that 77,000 towards an unfunded position.
Okay.
If the council agrees to all that.
Right. So you said 2020, so that the insurance is paid out of the water and.
Right.
Okay. I just want to make sure I understand it correctly. And then I do appreciate you looking into the animal control contract. It's a few people already had some concerns. I just want to make sure that the services that the county is providing is efficient, because it sounds like there might be some potential lack of service. And I'm also interested in the number of stats based on the calls that they get to serve our city. I think that's important for the council members to know. And that's all I have. Thank you.
I have just a couple questions. Thank you, Serena, for covering so much. To the fire, we have on the presentation, we have $88,800,000. That's not just all from the general fund. That's part of that's Measure H money. And the other question is, does that include the training and the fixed assets, the repair of the fire truck and all the other things, or is that just the labor, just the contract for the fire personnel?
I believe it's just the contract. It's not the upkeep of the fire stations.
So, unfortunately, I wasn't able to go through the proposed budget very as I should have been able to. I didn't manage my time over the weekend properly. In the budget, do we have money set aside for the oxygen tank, the training facility, the repair to the truck, the oil changes and all of that? Are they set aside in the fire department?
So in terms of like the fire training tower, that's part of our capital improvement plan. And so that's a separate funding source. But in terms of the total dollar amounts for the fire department, it does include the fire contract as well as SR 911 for fire. And then it has allocations for various internal service funds, like we talked about, that has like fleet and IT and some of those things. So those costs are captured in the budget, but the majority of that budget is the contract services with the city of Modesto.
Thank you. Thank you. So, last year's budget, I brought up the same question to you and Doug. The contract is called contract services. And again, I think it's like 14 million again this year or something. It's a large number. And when you sent me what it broke down, why do we have that contract services? Why don't we break out the individual services that are part of that contract? Because when the simple-minded person would think contract services means we're contracting for something, but I think when you broke it out for me, it's really not just something contract, it was utility bills and different things. So what's the purpose of having it lumped together as one number?
So reason I believe, I'll have Shannon correct me if I'm wrong, but we have a line item for contract service, because if we start listing every single one of them, this book will probably be double in size, because we have a lot of contracts to make this city work.
I kind of agree with you, but this one page that I'm looking at is contract services for operation and maintenance. So in that is the TID bill portion, or so couldn't the TID bill be a lump sum number in the front page? I mean, why doesn't it? It just seems to be not very transparent that you have this $14 million or $10 million and it just says contract services. It seems that the people need to know what the money's going for. That's all.
I think I understand what you're saying, but we can't just put TID in the front and say, oh, this is a lump sum, because each department uses a specific amount of it, and that's how we break that down. So they're responsible for that amount.
I understand that. So in this operation on page 30 of the proposed budget, you'd have to add their contract services. Last year last year was 8,400. This year is 8,000. So on this particular page, yeah, it would add half a dozen lines. But on the overall front page where you summarize all the expenses, it would only be one line. PID, $8 million or whatever it is. It doesn't seem very practical to, it almost seems like we're hiding $14 million from the general public. And then, I don't know, and if that's a council decision, I guess we'll bring it up to the council.
I'm not sure if I understand. We're not hiding. It's in the budget where we're spending it. We're saying we're spending for $14 million or whatever. How are we hiding that?
No. What we're saying is that we're spending $14 million, or whatever the number is. Again, I apologize. I don't have it right in front of me. We're spending $14 million on contract services.
So can I jump in here for a second? So as we move through the budget and as we move through recording our expenses, we have identified additional line items that would make sense to have in the general ledger. But the general ledger is meant to be a high-level system, and it's not meant to individually itemize each expenditure in a separate line. So while I understand your concern, we can provide you with a list of all the contract services so that you can see where we're contracting. But if you look at the general fund overall, I believe the total contract services is around $7 million, $7.7 million. And of that, 5.8 is the fire contract and the SR 911 for fire. So most of the contract services that reside in the general fund are related to fire, and it's only about 2 million that are other services. And you're correct, it would make up a lot of different things, which would include our animal control, which is almost $1 million. And then the rest are rather minor in comparison. But we did break out things like the subscription-based software for not only transparency purposes, but accounting reporting purposes. And so those did come out of contract services, as well as the city was recording a lot of things in contract services that were really capital in nature. And so those costs were moved as well. So we are trying to provide additional transparency to that line.
Okay, thank you.
Any comments? Councilmember? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief, I have a question for you, sir. So during the presentation, I believe it was Doug said that we're going to be moving one SRO officer back from the school district and into the streets. He also mentioned that we're in negotiations with Ceres Unified School District, right? That contract's coming to an end. Is that something we can negotiate to increase and get another SR officer covered through the school district?
Thank you for the question. I think that will be up to the school district. If they want another SRO, we can provide it as long as they pay for it.
Thank you, sir. And then currently sworn, what are our numbers right now?
So currently we have 39 sworn working.
Okay.
We have 2 in background. We have 1 in the police academy and 4 to go to the police academy in September, and then 1 vacant spot that just opened up a few days ago.
So this is around 44 officers when everything's completed?
Would it be 47?
47. Thank you, sir. I had a couple more questions, but first, Doug, I'm going to just jump on what everyone else has kind of been going in on. That $881,386 for animal control is ridiculous. We heard people sitting out here, and we have a very small room full of people saying that they've had issues with it. I personally have had to call because of animals in my neighborhood and have never seen animal control come through. We are the second largest city they contract with, but we're definitely not getting $800,000 worth of services. I don't know what it would look like if maybe that's something we can research, getting an animal control service vehicle, maybe training an officer that can be animal control and code enforcement and see what the discounted rate would be since Modesto funds their own animal control officers and see if that 881,000 can come down. Because there's no way we're getting $881,000 worth of services. I had two more questions. One was for Sam. During the report, it said that there was a budgeted line item for public works. It said solid waste, and it was $54,765. What was that, sir?
You hear me? Oh. Mr. Martinez, the 54,000 for solid waste, I believe, Shannon, do you have any input on that? I mean, could you help me out here? I can't remember.
Yeah, so that's part of Tony's program.
Yeah.
And most of the costs in there are related to the compost material, I believe. The Recreate, is that?
Yeah. Okay, that could be it. There's we do have a contract service with Recreate to manage our food recovery program. So that's a big part of it. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you. And I have one more question. Fund 226 is $18,271 for the Whitmore Mansion. What does that $18,000 go towards?
Are you asking me directly?
Anyone can answer that question. I don't know who that would go to. I just know that we're paying $18,000 for the Whitmore Mansion. I don't know, is that the staff salary to keep the grass cut or?
Yeah, we do maintain the facility as far, we do have a security system that is, that we have a contract with. And also we do maintain the landscaping around the mansion.
Thank you, sir.
Councilmember, real quick, on the Whitmore Mansion, we do have a contract. It'll be coming back to you June 9th. Lisa, June 9th. There was a organization, Whitmore Mansion Foundation, that has been looking over it and kind of running the mansion since 2013, and we've had 6 amendments. We'll be bringing that back. They've actually are in talks with somebody to come in there and help improve it and hopefully turn around so it's not as some of the citizens called it.
Are we the outright owners? We own 100% of that mansion, or are we in a partnership with somebody else?
It's my understanding we own it outright. We're in partnership with somebody to take care of it.
Okay. And last question, Sam. $2.5 million was the park's allocated budget. Kind of just throwing you on the ball here, but any chance that we'll see any sort of improvements for Lions Park in the future? I know it's just a dirt lot with a lot of cattails. Any chance we can improve that area?
This is it. We've been discussing this for the past years. The park is definitely overdue. I mean, a few years ago, we considered an estimate of almost between $5 to $6 million to redo that park completely. There's one advantage that we have is like we do have the irrigation well, which we could use for the park, but to improve the entire park and today's cost, you're talking about maybe doubling up that number.
Thank you, sir.
City Manager, where do we go from here? This workshop was essentially to get the public's understanding of your presentation and get the council to ask some questions. I know that we are missing one councilwoman at the moment. How many weeks before this will come back again to the council?
We're planning on bringing this back June 23rd.
June 23rd.
So we're having a meeting today. All the document and all the paperwork is due to the city clerk's office by June 9th. So we're looking for direction from the city council on the various suggestions that were made today among the council members to say, what would you like for the budget if possible, or if you desire whatever switches, whatever changes you want made, so we have time to make that. SASSA is not going to change overnight. We have to look at that and see how we can control that. And we're not the only city that's in an uproar about SASSA and their lack of responsibility, lack of response, period. But we're looking for the council to sit there and explain, not explain, but direct us on what you would like to see in the budget coming on the 23rd, on the suggestions that were made tonight amongst yourselves.
Okay, so I know there were suggestions by certain council members. Do we just want to repeat those and see if it's a nod of the head, or because I know we have one of our council members that's not here, and the only opportunity she will have to look at this budget again and have any input will be at the city council meeting. There's no action. There's no action. So, okay, so that's kind of why I was trying to make sure. So there are some suggestions, right? And so there's no action today, but those suggestions can be brought back during the next city council meeting and go from there, correct?
We can bring the suggestions back to what it's going to look like next week or on the next council meeting, just roughly to say, these are changes and this is the impact, what it's going to do, hopefully the council. I don't know. Maybe I should ask finance.
Is that considered an action? If we're bringing it?
No, because you're asking questions, so we can provide information.
So information only?
Sit there and say, and I'm getting dirty looks from finance.
No, I understand.
It's like, so I'll give you an example. Like Councilwoman Otero was talking about, okay, what would it look like if we move professional development or whatever into police? Okay, police we know will absorb it, no problem. But what does that do to you, and what does that look like with the budget? And so how does that change your budget? So I believe that would be easy to accomplish, ladies.
Will there be an opportunity from this point going forward to the city council meeting if, let's just say, for example, another council member comes up with another suggestion and communicate to you? Could that be is that not going to happen? Yeah, that's what I was asking.
So the city council rules and procedures lays out workshops, and it states that workshops, the city council may not vote or take any final action at workshops. However, the city council may provide consensus and give direction to city staff regarding matters considered in workshops. But those final actions on all workshops will have to be taken to a regular or special meeting, the opportunity for public comment. So it sounds like based on the rules and procedures, at most council can do is consensus tonight.
Okay. Would you like to go ahead and go over those items that you've recorded to get consensus? There's a difference between suggestions and concerns, right? So just the suggestions that were made.
I have my notes here.
Try your best.
Well, may have left some off. So if I have missed any of the council members' suggestions, by all means, please chime in. I also rely on the recordings for our minutes with whatever is said in these meetings.
Go ahead.
So starting with Council Member Otero, I have here, yes, to move professional development funds over to PD for training. I need someone to write this down. So have medical insurance.
Let's start one at a time, from left to right. No? Yes? No? Moving over professional development funds. This is just consensus. It was no, yes, no, yes. That dies. Next one.
Now we also have moving the insurance funds to PD, I believe, if it was for training or unfunded positions. Okay.
It was for code
Moving
enforcement.
council.
I specifically said for code enforcement, but I'd also like to give the opportunity for the chief to decide what would be the best allocation.
And this would only be for the general fund portion of the medical insurance provided by or provided to the council.
Okay, left to right? No? No?
Well, I object to us voting. We have a third member.
We're not voting. This is consensus.
This is,
It's consensus, council member.
we need to speak in the mic. So
Point of order.
Sorry about that,
Mayor,
council
do we
member.
have
I'll give you the
an attorney on?
microphone.
Do we not have an attorney on who can help us with this?
we do not. Consensus is only given, it's basically given staff direction to bring this item back for a discussion with council during a regular meeting. This is not anything that you're taking action on and it's set in stone. It's simply consensus.
So when I vote yes, is it going to be brought back to the council for consideration?
It depends on what the vote count
not-
is.
That's my point. It's 2-2. So that's why I'm saying what we should wait and vote on the council. I don't need to think. We shouldn't. We should wait on the council, particularly the items that are dealing with the council, so we have a full council. For that matter, any of these suggestions. Because we have a council member who we knew wasn't going to be here, and we still scheduled the meeting, right? And we've invited the public here to witness, to give us input, and they have. But what good is it for us to vote and not have we're not going to have a consensus? Either way, I'm not suggesting that the council member that isn't here would necessarily vote the same way I'm voting, but it's still not, in my opinion. Of course, I don't know all the protocol. I've been told about how council people should do things, but it's silly. Why even talk about it? We already know it's 2-2. So we're not going to be, because you're saying we're not voting on it, but I'm hearing that because we don't have a consensus, it's not going to be brought up again. Is that right? And then I'm also hearing that 7 days before the end of the month, we're going to be voting on the budget, and we as council people, the citizens didn't have an opportunity to see the agenda until 2:30, 2:35 on Friday. We as council people didn't get a chance to see this document until the same time. So we're not being fair, my opinion, which is not the consensus here. We're not being fair to the citizens or to ourselves. So I'll vote yes for what it's worth.
Thank you, Councilmember. Next item. That's fine. If you don't remember all of them, that's fine. Are we missing any of them? I took some notes down. There was a suggestion.
My suggestion was to buy a animal control vehicle and see about moving that funds over so that we can stop splitting that cost a little bit like City Modesto does.
What funds was that?
The $880,000, almost $900,000 we're paying for animal services. City Modesto has their own vehicles. I'd like to see what that would look like, getting our own vehicles and how much of a cost savings that could be for us.
Okay, I'll ask for consensus from left to right. Yes, for me. Can you please repeat yourself, Vice Mayor?
Am I repeating my vote or my? Yes.
No.
All right. Next one. I think that's it. I know that council member. Go ahead. Yeah, because I don't have.
I apologize. I want to bring one thing up. Shannon or Doug mentioned it when it comes to the fire services contract. I know recently SR 911 had their CDAC meeting to approve their budget. One thing that I noticed on their budget is the line for Ceres Fire for the total number of incidents, I believe combines the city of Ceres jurisdiction and the unincorporated. I would like to know what the incidents are for just the incorporated, since that's what the city of Ceres is covering. I think there was some little cost increase there, but I just want to make sure that the county is subsidizing their portion correctly.
So that's going to be part of the negotiations that we're doing right now. But the cost of the rate increase for SR 911 went up 9.7%, and that's incorporated already into this this budget for right now. Right now, we're in negotiation. We're in negotiations with the fire department. That's part of the same questions we're asking.
Okay.
Excuse me, can council please repeat the consensus vote for the animal control services? We went offline for a second
It
because
was
one-
three yeses and one no.
Yes.
Then I don't know if there's any more that you guys can remember. How about yourself, Mr. Councilman?
Have any up there? The public.
We had public comment already.
Yeah, public comment is now over. You're welcome to, you're welcome to repeat any of their suggestions and you can make the same. Want to make sure before we begin, before we end, is there anything else that you would like to add besides all the comments as far as suggestions? Okay. Well, yeah, whatever you would like.
So I have some of my notes here. I know that someone spoke about the downtown revitalization, which will be discussed soon, I believe, in the city. So that was one item. The animal control services was also another concern. The Whitmore Mansion, public safety. We have our Parks and Recs. And then I think fire was just discussion between us.
She was just repeating some of the concerns from the public. Is there anything else? Nothing from here? Mr. Casey, one more time? Okay. I believe, is there any additional comments from staff? No? Okay, I just wanted to say thank you very much, everybody, for this hard work. And I just want to remind the public that this will not be the last time you will have a chance for your input. We will have another city council meeting coming up. Thank you very much. We will now adjourn to a closed session. We'll go to closed session for conference with a labor's negotiator, California Government Code 54957. Agency designated representatives are City Manager Douglas D. Dunford and Human Resources Director Delilah Vasquez. Employees organizations are the Serious Police Officers Association, First Line Supervisors Confidential Bargaining Group, and Laborers International Union of North America, LIUNA, Mid Managers Bargaining Group, and Public Safety Managers. If there's anyone from the public that would like to speak regarding the closed session, now is the time. Seeing none, meeting is adjourned. Welcome back, everybody. For closed session, there's no reportable action.